Alright, welcome everybody to another BD Boxing transmission. This is your host, Mr. BDA, and I sure am glad that everybody could be on board for this one. Alright, in this episode, I want to focus on the Zepeda versus Farmer rematch taking place in the last week of March. Now, William Zepeda, if you head on over, by the way, to Patreon, free videos, just make sure to sign up for free and you can watch the videos. We go more in depth about the Zepeda-Farmer fight, more in-depth film analysis over there, so make sure to check those out. Here, however, I want to focus on a crucial aspect between this clash of styles. First of all, Zepeda, as I point out in the Patreon videos, he's got a couple of weaknesses, glaring weaknesses as it pertains to defense. Feet set too wide apart. He lunges in with his head, pulls back with his head up in the air, doesn't roll with the shots. It's just a whole bunch of technical deficiencies. However, he makes up for it with an insane gas tank, a non-stop body attack, and quite heavy hands if you think about it. Now, Zepeda-Farmer did very well in exploiting some of those defensive holes. However, I can't help but wonder how much differently the fight would have gone had it been 12 rounds as opposed to 10. 12 is the rematch going to be 12, by the way. But also, how much different would the fight have looked had Farmer been prevented from clinching? Look, the rules are quite clear about clinching. It's illegal. Now, some people tend to frame the discussion as, well, it's not the clinching that's illegal, it's the quantity, which then brings up the question, okay, well, how much is excessive? Illegal clinching, I mean, do we put a number on it? Or do you rate it by the eye test and go, yeah, okay, I can see that that's too much? So I think that's a discussion that we should have if we're going to qualify it, if we're going to frame it as being a quantitative issue. However, you look at the IBA rules, it says clinching is illegal. Stalling is illegal because clinching is part of stalling, you're not trying. The WBO is also quite clear in it, saying it's illegal. So does the WBA. The only one that actually says that it's quantitative is the WBC, when they characterize it as excessive clinching. I couldn't find anything on the IBF, by the way. I don't know why I can't find. The IBF doesn't mention anything as far as I could tell in regards to clinching. However, IBA, WBO, WBA, they say it's illegal. My issue with the clinching is that it's usually done for a couple of reasons, mainly three of them. One, it's because the fighter is unable to fight on the inside. In other words, he's not skillful enough to compete with another guy on the inside. B, the clincher is tired and again, doesn't have the physical capacity to keep up with another guy, so he has to cheat. Or C, the fighter is hurt, which that to me is more of a gray area because, listen, you're concussed, you're hurt, the adrenaline spikes. First instinct for a lot of these guys is to clinch. Also, when two fighters are particularly sloppy and they start falling into each other and start clinching, to me, that's up to the referee to start saying, all right, guys, stop clinching, it's enough. But usually in boxing, we see one guilty party initiating the clinches. One of the reasons why I'm against clinching is because it dilutes the action. The WBA states so itself. They know that fans hate clinching because it slows the pace down, like I said, ruins the action, it's stalling, and it just kills the rhythm of the fight. And by the way, the more boring the fights, the less people watch boxing. Because then they just watch a fight, they go, well, one guy's clinching and wrestling, this is boring. And second of all, it prevents us from finding out who the best fighter is, which is one of the reasons why we watch boxing, because we want to find out, all right, two guys are fighting each other. We want to see who the better man is, especially when it's the top two guys in the division fighting each other. You don't want to see clinching, you want to see pure boxing skills, which is the name of the game, and to see who the better boxer is, who the superior boxer is. And you don't get that with clinching because then it muddies the issues. Like, well, one guy got away with clinching, one guy got away with breaking the rules. So it's not a level playing field. And when you have these type of discussions, you'll often hear people say, well, clinching is part of boxing. Yeah, it's part of boxing. Cheating is part of boxing. Doping, EPO doping, PED doping, HGH, all these other, PEDs, that's part of boxing. Doesn't make it right. So that argument of, well, it's part of boxing, that's not a sound argument. Then when people finally accept that, yeah, okay, clinching for all the reasons that I mentioned is bad, they go, well, it's up to the referee. But then again, here's a counter to that, is that certain referees will not enforce the rules. First of all, they should know that clinching is illegal, right? If you're a professional referee, you would hope that a professional would be familiar with the rules. But some of these dudes are either incompetent or corrupt, I don't know which, and they don't enforce the rules. When people say, well, it's up to the referee, what are you supposed to do if the referee's wrong or will selectively enforce the rules? I mean, you take a look at Harvey Duck. He was a referee for Garcia Haney. He allowed a whole lot of clinching from both guys. Never deducted any points for that. In the Farmer-Zepeda fight, as we're going to see later on, he allowed Farmer to clinch a lot. Conversely, he also refereed the Ennis-Karen rematch, and the Karen was clinching, particularly in the latter half of the fight. Harvey Duck deducted a point. So now, was it excessive clinching? Again, the rules, only the WBC mentions anything about excessive clinching. Everyone else agrees clinching is illegal. So why Harvey Duck would decide to deduct a point from the Karen? Haney and Garcia were excessively clinching, that much is clear. Why didn't he deduct a point from either of those guys, but he did so for the Karen? Then other people will say, well, it's up to the fighter to do something about it, which it's not. Again, it's up to the referee. That's the first line of defense for enforcing the rules. If the referee is not doing it, all right, then I guess it's up to the fighter, right? That's the argument. Well, what happens when one guy is clinching and the fighter being clinched tries to fight his way out of it or tries to be somewhat rough about it, and he gets warned? Benavides versus Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant's holding in these examples early in the fight, and Benavides tries to use his forearm to pry himself away from Caleb Plant. The referee warns Benavides about it, never deducts a point from Plant for all the clinching. So again, what's the fighter that's being clinched supposed to do? We got one guy gaining an advantage, or for the most part getting an advantage, by breaking the rules. The ref fails to stop the cheater. Meanwhile, the other fighter can't cheat or bend the rules to stop the cheater in the first place. Does that sound like an even playing field? Another example is Nick Ball versus Raymond Ford. Now, Raymond Ford wasn't clinching too much in that fight, but when he was, it was quite obvious that he was at a loss for any answers and just decided to clinch out of nowhere. So Nick Ball tries to wrestle his way out of the clinch, and he gets warned. But the referee never warned, as far as I remember, Raymond Ford for the clinching. So again, we're seeing some bias here. Some guys are allowed to break the rules, and then the guys who try to break them or bend them in order to get out of the clinch, they're not allowed to do it. Again, that's unfair. And finally, when Zepeda-Farmer did his share of clinching against Zepeda, there's a point in the 5th round where Zepeda tries to wrestle his way out of it, and he gets warned. And in this fight, Doc never gave a hard warning. I don't even think he even warned him. Again, I'd have to rewatch the whole fight with sound. I watch it with the sound off nowadays. So I don't know if there was ever a stern warning saying, hey, one more clinch and I'm taking a point away. Never. Again, Harvey Doc did deduct a point from the Karen, but never warned Farmer or took a point away from him. And then when Zepeda, again, the people that go, well, it's up to the fighter to do something about it, Zepeda tried doing something about it and he was warned for it. So what's he supposed to do? Now he's got to bend over. He's fighting two guys at the same time now. And if you look at some of these clinches, it's not even necessarily two guys falling into each other and both falling into a clinch. It's Zepeda-Farmer being on the ropes, bending forward, and then going for a clinch because he can't keep up with Zepeda punch for punch. Which, hey, I'm sorry, some people have advantages and disadvantages in a fight. Zepeda's disadvantage is that his defense ain't all that. But he, like I said, he makes up for it with the volume punching. But then Farmer, who lacks the volume punching, says, well, what can I do to make up for it? Well, let me cheat by clinching. And he's never warned for it. Hopefully, the referee, whomever it might be, actually enforces the rules here and we get a good, clean fight and we actually find out who the superior fighter is. Guys, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one, fellas. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. Woohoo!